Okay, so I have no idea how this happened. Well, I kind of do because I had bedhead. There is a piece of hair that is slightly to the side that I don't think I fixed at the video. Please just ignore it. I didn't even realize this until I started editing. I'm sorry, it's gonna be annoying. Welcome back to What's Wrong with DC. I am your host for today, Flower Boy or Bunny, whichever you prefer. This is a continuation from my last post. DC, please stop changing characters. Today we will be getting into talking about Joker, Mad Hatter, and then any other characters I feel like talking about that kind of fit in with this category. If you haven't seen my last video, please check that out. I feel like it was really good and did a really good job of explanation. Also, I do need to go back later to talking about Batman again for some of the characters I want to talk about because I finally finished The Killing Joke yesterday and it has something about Batman I wish to discuss that I forgot to talk about because I didn't think they were going to do it again. I thought it was just a one-off thing. But if you want to see what I'm talking about, I would suggest you stay till the end of the video when I get to that part. Without further ado, let's start off with Mad Hatter. Now, if you don't know me, I am a uni-shipper, which means a self-shipper, which means somebody that likes to imagine a relationship with a fictional character, while being fully aware that person's fictional. So it's not like a mental disorder, okay? I do have mental disorders, but not one like that. I happen to uni-ship with Mad Hatter, so I will say I do have some bias when it comes to his character, but I'm also way more passionate about him than most other characters in the Batman series. So, for him, this is gonna be more of a sensitive topic. And again, the gold standard I feel like was Mad Hatter was 1990 series and then 99 series to back when Batman first came out again. Those are my really gold standards. I do think Arkham Asylum was an okay standard for Mad Hatter, but I do have a complaint about that. With my first complaint, I want to talk about them making him a okay? Now, if you've never read Alice in Wonderland, the original book, then I will explain why this is really stupid. And that is the fact that Mad Hatter he was never attracted to Alice at all in the entire book. I haven't read Through the Looking Glass yet, but his character is mostly just based off the original book, not the tentacle sequel, if you will. So, no, he was never attracted to Alice at all. And in fact, even in the first book, he basically wants her to go away from his tea party and basically tells her to. So, I think it's weird that DC made him a. And originally, his character was never even attracted to Alice's, if I remember correctly, because I read the first comic that he ever appeared in, no mention of Alice at all. I watched some clips of the live action Batman series, the first one, again, no mention of Alice. There is a girl that's in love with him, but she's not Alice and she's not a child. For the first animated series, I haven't seen it yet, but to my knowledge, again, no mention of Alice, and he's not attracted to Alice, no mention of her. In the 1991, there is a character called Alice Pleasantry, but she is not Alice. He does have her dress as Alice in the tea party scene, but he's not attracted to her because she looks like Alice. Her name just happens to be Alice and fit the character in the book, which I do think that was weird, but it wasn't as bad as they made him. I say, if I remember my timelines correctly, I would say 2000s to 2010s is when they started making that change for his character. And there's a reason why they're doing this, or at least I'm taking a little bit of a leap and assuming because it makes no sense, so I kind of just have to fill in the areas that they kind of left a gigantic hole in. And that is the fact that they wanted to make him more gritty, they wanted to make him more dark, And they also wanted to give him a love interest that he could be obsessed with. Now, the obvious choice for anybody that, is a normal person, you would think, why don't we just make the love interest the March Hare? The March Hare is humanoid, so it's not like he's in love with an animal. He's humanoid, he acts human, he drinks tea, he does things that hares typically couldn't do without dying, as someone that does a lot of research into hares and bunnies. So he does act humanoid and doesn't meet hare standards other than looking like a hare. And that would make sense for a love interest. And again, they can make a human version that they can make a human character that looks like the March Hare and then have Mad Hatter get obsessed with him and then that's his villain thing. But no, because I feel like this is my personal opinion, but also it doesn't help that the company DC was bought out by a known very Christian and homophobic company, Paramount. So yeah, but I feel like it came from a place of homophobia. Because instead of making him gay, which is horrible, they made him, because in DC's mind, being a is somehow better than being gay. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And it's like, you could argue. Okay, I have no idea how I did this, but instead of calling him Lewis Carroll, I called him Will Carroll. I think I was thinking of Will Ferrell, but please ignore it. I genuinely don't know how my brain did this, so just ignore that fact. I realized shortly after. Well, Will Carroll was. So maybe they wanted to put that in there because it would be gritty. But that would also make no sense because yes, he's a child, but Mad Hatter is not like a self-insert character. Mad Hatter is not supposed to represent Will Carroll at all. He's just his own character, so that wouldn't even make sense either. Because then what? It's just weird. And then also the fact that he was never started off with. They just recently started making him. So it's like if you want to have a character, just make a new character. Also, in the series is bad, especially because they don't just make him they make him a predator where he's actively seeking out children, which is really bad because the whole point of Batman is that the villains are supposed to be justified and not being completely horrible people. You can't make a child predator not a completely horrible person, and it also makes you feel shitty when Batman doesn't kill him because he thinks that he can change. And a lot of people aren't going to agree with the fact that child predator can change. Now, unpopular opinion that I do agree with, and that is the fact that a does deserve help, not a child predator. The difference between a child predator is that they commit crimes against children. Now, it does not affect children, but that is proven to me a neurological and mental disorder. So a person that has that would need serious help. So with him having that, it would be weird, but it would be okay because then Batman's point of him needing help wouldn't feel as gross or messed up because he hasn't actually done anything yet. But still, again, it's weird and it doesn't make sense for the series. And also, I will say this again, adding child crimes or just like sexual crimes in your series to make it more dark and gritty is just bad writing. It's lazy. It's just shock value for the sake of shock value. It doesn't add anything to the story, which I will also complain about later. And I hate that they did that to his character, Mad Hatter, because it doesn't make any sense. And that's not how he was originally. He was a silly, goofy character. Also, if they wanted to go down a more dark path of him being more deranged, they could have just made it so he would kidnap people that he thought or that they looked like Alice in Wonderland characters and then force them to go to tea parties and stuff, and when they don't act like the character, he kills them, which they do in one comic, but it's only for Alice. It's not for any of the other characters. And that's weird, because why don't they just do all of the characters? But then that wouldn't be shocking enough if they didn't make him a because we have to have it be shocking, guys, or else no one's gonna care. Because I hate that writers do that because it's lazy. It's lazy writing just to add shock value to make it more interesting, which is not true. And if anything, it makes it more boring because this happens all the time now. It's just like, I'm so tired of people constantly adding this in horror stuff for the sake of shocking stuff. It's, like I said, it's not good writing. And then I also don't like it that they make him more evil and cruel later on the series, which again makes no sense because his character is not supposed to be evil or cruel. He's supposed to be silly. He's supposed to be kind of like the Joker, but more leaning towards the silly part. I'm fine with him having mental disorders like paranoid schizophrenia and OCD. That's fine if you want to give him actual mental disorders. But making him more cruel just comes from the stereotype of people with schizophrenia are insane murderers who are unfixable and are damaged beyond repair, which is bad. That's why I also don't like later DC, because then they're going more off of stereotypes of mental disorders, demonizing people with disorders just for the sake of being like, look at all these crazy people. And they also completely butcher how the mental disorders are a lot of the time. A lot of time they don't do them correctly because, again, they're based off of stereotypes. So there's no way that these mental disorders are ever going to be accurate to people that actually have them. Or even how the disorder just functions in general. It's just so tiring. And it's just a constant demonizing of mental disorders that puts me so off about modern Batman. Because they feel like they have to make it more gritty. And in order to make it more gritty, they have to make it more based on mental disorder stereotypes, which is just harmful to the community of mental health in general, and also other people that have the disorders and constantly feeling like that they're a horrible person and unlovable and unfixable. And it doesn't help that a lot of times they try to push this narrative. Like with Mad Hatter, they constantly try to say that he's unfixable, that he's broken and damaged beyond repair, and that there's nothing they can do to help him, which is just literally provably wrong and also really messed up, by the way. It's just such a change from his original character, where he had mental disorders, but he was trying to help. For example, there's a comic panel where the whole reason why he puts Batman in a dream state is because he thought he was the most miserable person he's ever seen and wanted to make him happy. That's so sad. And another one where he basically, in a way, gets manipulated, even though it's unintentionally, which is in I think it's the detective. No, it's not. Is it the detective series? It's the comic series. I'll show it up. It's like the comic series where you're looking in on the Gotham police while they solve crimes, and then Batman is kind of there but not really there. It's more about them solving the stuff rather than Batman solving it. And in that comic panel, Mad Hatter ends up finding out from this girl's mom for the place that he lives at, because he lives at this apartment where he helps out the kids while they're in college. And the mom ends up telling him that her daughter was. So he decides to kill all of the football players for what they did. Also, he knows that these people are horrible people already because they also bullied out of all the other people in the apartment. Also, they did commit an actual sexual crime against the two nerds by forcing them to get undressed and go into the women's locker room. I don't know why they didn't mention this, but that is an actual sexual crime. You can't force someone to remove their clothes. That's illegal. But the thing was a lie that the daughter came up with, and then it got all the football players killed. But again, he was trying to help, and also he's mentally ill. His mental illness was used against him. And I don't like it when stuff like this happens, and then they try to portray it that he's an evil monster when he's actively just trying to help, even though he doesn't understand these things. It's messed up, and again, it creates a harmful stereotype that people with mental disorders are crazy, that they're horrible, that they're murderers, and that they can't be fixed. They're unfixable. They're unlovable. And that's so wrong. And it's constantly having this harmful stereotype be projected again and again. It's crazy for me to say that the 1999 series for the animated Batman was tackled so much better with their tackling of mental disorders, with grief, with everything, really. Granted, they did do a few slip ups here and there, but overall, they did a pretty good job, a way better job than modern Batman has in showing mental disorders. Because at least they showed that the villains were capable of changing and getting better, and how Batman never gave up on them. And it's just drifted so far away from that. Now, we're going to move on to Joker, which is probably one of the most egregious examples of completely flipping how the character acts, and it is so annoying. The fact that he has no morals, if I believe correctly, the only two things that he won't do is tax evasion, because he's scared of the IRS. I will go back if I'm wrong about this, and being an author. But he's fine with everything else. I'm sorry, but having a character that has no morals whatsoever is bad character design. Because this wouldn't happen in real life. Yes, guaranteed he has two moral standpoints, but they also make no sense, because how is he okay with genocide but he draws the line at being a Nazi, even though those two things are a major point of being a Nazi, other than being racist? He's just not racist. That's it. That's the only thing that's stopping him from these things. The only thing stopping him from being a Nazi is just the fact that he doesn't hate Jewish people. Are we serious? That's stupid. That's so stupid. You can't have it okay with every single crime, and then just not be okay with certain crimes, which are only two crimes. It's absurd, and it's a complete drift and change from the original comic Joker from when he first came out in the 1990s series. They started changing him to get progressively worser in the 2010s to late 2000s, where he just got so much worse, and now it's so much less about trying to help people with mental disorders and so much more we want to make a dark and gritty series, so in order to do that, we're going to ruin every single character we've ever made because we want the series to be more dark, which is stupid, because you can still make the series dark without making every character a super horrible piece of shit, especially if they weren't originally. And then them just having him do super evil things with no reason or purpose other than that he finds it funny, which again, bad character design and not how Joker usually acts at all. Like, for example, in The Killing Joke, which I just recently watched, he Barbara for no seeming reason other than he wants to prove a point in order to break Jim Gordon so that he can be like, see, everyone is so close to being crazy and snapping, just like me. Which is stupid and not how Joker would go about doing this at all. It's just weird. It's just shock value for the sake of shock value, and it's just gross. Because Joker wouldn't do something like this because it's just weird and doesn't make sense for him to do it. I don't like it when they make him a because it just comes out of nowhere because that's not his character. Again, it's butchering characters for the sake of shock value or something more gritty. And it's just not good. It's bad. It's bad character design. It's lazy writing. It's ridiculous. And then they want him to be a serious threat to Batman, which is fine. But the way they go about trying to make him a genuine threat to Batman is so dumb. Because then it brings up the point, why doesn't he just kill him? If he's such an awful, terrible piece of shit that's completely irredeemable, and he's gonna constantly do evil stuff no matter what, then what does Batman see in him? This is the reason why they can't have a character like this, because then it makes no sense for Batman to think that he has any reason to change. That's why in the other series, they show these characters having glimpses of humanity, doing things that aren't completely malicious, and just things that come from a dark place in their mind.
But when they throw that all out the window and just make them completely cruel and evil, just doing super horrible stuff with no rhyme or reason, there's no reason for Batman to not want these people to be executed or him to kill them himself. There's no reason he should be this empathetic to Joker because he's never showed him a reason to be empathetic. Which is why doing this to Joker, again, makes no sense. It makes the series stupid and just makes me annoyed at Batman for constantly forgiving him when he's done nothing to show that he deserves it. Which is, again, proving the lazy writing, and it's ridiculous. Now, it's time for me to talk about some of the other characters, and then I might go back to talking about Mad Hatter or Joker if I feel like it, but a lot of the issues I have with Mad Hatter or Joker are just the constant making them really horrible for no reason other than shock value or to just make a threat to Batman, even if it completely ruins the point of the series. Now it's time for me to go back, so I'm going back to Batman because I don't know why they did this, but in certain series, they make Batman a groomer, and Killing Joke happens to be one of them. Now, I'm not entirely sure about the timeline, but if the timeline is accurate to how the other series are, then that would mean that Batman has known Barbara since she was a child. As in the 1990 series and most of the comic series, her and Robin are around the same age. And Batman has been working in Gotham before he adopted Robin. And Robin was around 12 years old, I believe. I'll show it up again if I'm wrong, what age he was. And he also knew Jim Gordon around this time, which means he would have known Barbara when she was a child, which makes her being a love interest for him grooming and really sick and messed up, because how would he be attracted or romantically interested in someone that he knew since they were a child? They do it in the 1990s series where she has a crush on Batman, but I don't think Batman reciprocates. Thank God he doesn't. I feel like it's fine for her to have a crush on him, even if I think it's weird because, again, she doesn't understand why it's wrong, especially because she's still pretty young, because Robin is like probably 19 or like in his 20s in the 1990 series because he goes to college and so does Barbara. So we could say because her brain isn't fully developed that she doesn't understand why it's weird or wrong for her to try to date Batman when he has known her since she was a child. But in The Killing Joke, they literally have sex. He has sex with someone that he knew since they were like 12. Batman, that's so disgusting. Oh my God. I don't know if it's illegal, but it's morally wrong if you knew someone when they were a child and you don't date them because obviously you don't because they're a child, and you wait until that person turns 18 and you have already long been past 18 before this point and you date them or them, you are a bad person because that is literally grooming. That's grooming. It's having someone wait until they're 18 to get in a relationship with you when you're past 18 and making them seem like this is an okay and normal thing is grooming and also morally up. I don't like it that they make Batman a groomer in some of these series. It's gross. It's really gross. And it's just not something Batman would do. So it's just weird and comes out of left field and just makes me really, really, really uncomfortable. Really uncomfortable. And then another character I want to talk about is Poison Ivy and how they constantly make her character worse. And I don't like that because it's weird. I always thought her ability to make men fall in love with her was weird because a lot of the series her powers only work on men and not women, which makes no sense because they should also work on women. I don't know why they would only work on men. Because love spells don't make any sense anyways, so having them not work on women either makes it make even less sense. But in The Long Halloween, she literally sexually assaults Bruce Wayne multiple times. Because he is under her love spell, which means he cannot consent. He's basically under the influence. He cannot give reasonable consent to be okay with being kissed or touched or having sex, which is implied. but at the very least she kisses him, which is also sexual assault because he's not consenting to this. He's not consenting to these romantic advances because he can't. He's under the influence. I don't like it when they do it with Poison Ivy because it makes her character really gross. I don't know how much they did this in the series beforehand. I always thought it was really gross and weird. But it's even worse in other series, where she's literally just sexually assaulting people and with her love spell, and this is counted as not really for SA because she's a woman. And I don't like how they do that in Batman, where they excuse her actions a lot of the time because she's a woman, and that means that she can't do these things, which is wrong, because anyone can be a rapist, anyone can sexually assault someone regardless of gender or age. All that matters is that they did something sexual to somebody without their consent, and I would know that because it happened to me multiple times, but we're gonna drive past that point. So it's just really uncomfortable, and it makes me absolutely hate her character, and to the point where I can't stand it when she uses her love power in series because it's always just marketed as really gross and uncomfortable. And again, they constantly try to sexualize her, so that's why they use the love power a lot, because it's a sexual thing. And we can't have a woman character without constantly sexualizing them, am I right? Because then they wouldn't be interesting. They would be really boring. Obviously, I'm joking, because I hate it when they do that. They also kind of do it to Batgirl, where she's in love with a lot of the men that are really stupid and just kind of flirty with her. And it makes her look stupid as hell. And again, with the constant need for the outfits to be skin tight. I can't name a single character in the Batman series that's a girl that has never been sexualized. I won't even talk about freaking the god awful comic that was The Secret Six. Don't read it. It is probably the most painful experience of my life. I only read it for Mad Hatter, and then they ruined his character by making him a creep, and and then they just made it so much more worse as the volumes went on. I think it was volume 4 and 5 that completely turned me off from the series, because it was just really gross and weird, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. It's just really gross and uncomfortable. It's like, I hate the constant need to sexualize the female characters because then it's just annoying at this point where I can't get into enjoying the character because they're so sexualized. It's almost impossible for me to see past it because DC constantly makes it so that's all their character is, and it's annoying as hell. As for any of the other villains, I can't think of too much egregious examples of like constantly flipping them. I guess another one would be like Riddler, who was all goofy and silly, and then they made him serious and torture people. But I can kind of believe that for Riddler, because in the Batman 2022 movie for Riddler, they make it so it makes sense why he's like this. Because he was already mentally ill, and then just everyone around him made it so much worse that even though they did change how Riddler acts, they did it in a way that makes logical sense, where I can push my belief of Riddler being this evil, cruel person because of what happened to him. For other characters, I can't, like at all, like Joker. His only backstory, his only reason for doing all these awful things is he got thrown into acid, and that's why this happened. Makes no sense at all that he would be this cruel and evil just because he got thrown into acid. If anything, I feel like it would make more sense if he became a vigilante and just started killing gangsters. Because if I remember correctly, technically it was the gangsters' fault that this happened. But I don't know. I guess. That's just me. And then I feel like there's only a couple characters they haven't completely butchered throughout the series, and I would say the biggest example of how the character that they've never really ruined in my mind is Two-Face. Because they keep him pretty the same, which I do like. There hasn't been a version of Two-Face that I absolutely despised other than the design choice, I will never get over that series for the way they butchered him. The third Batman animated series, that was disgusting. Oh my god, he was so ugly. I will show it on screen again because it is that bad. And then another character I'm gonna quick talk about, Scarecrow. Scarecrow has been pretty fine. I don't like it in the Arkham series where they make it so that Scarecrow isn't mentally ill. He's just evil, which makes no sense because people aren't just evil for no reason, guys. I don't know if people didn't know that, but like everything happens for a reason. Every human does something for a reason. It can't be for no reason. Also, he's obsessed with fear to a concerning degree, and you want to tell me that he's not mentally ill? I don't think any normal person is this obsessed with fear. And this is coming from someone who's obsessed with bunnies. And I'm mentally ill. So I doubt that someone who could be so obsessed with fear on the same level that I'm obsessed with bunnies, maybe not on the same level because I don't turn people into bunnies to see bunnies. So maybe we're not exactly the same, but still. He's more obsessed with bunnies than I am, and I'm mentally ill, so this would make him super mentally ill, whatever that would mean. So I think it's just weird that they made that this character where it's like you can't just have a character commit super evil acts and be obsessed with fear and making people scared and then say no, he's not mentally ill, he's just I guess it wouldn't even be that he's messed up, he's just doing it because he can. I don't know. The dialogue for that scene is so weird that the interview doesn't make sense and it kind of just makes the psychiatrist that's interviewing him look stupid as hell. Because what do you mean you don't think he has a mental disorder? Have you even met him? Because he has met him, so it makes no sense. Like, did you have amnesia every time you met him? And you don't remember it, so that's why you're just assuming that he doesn't have mental disorder? Because I don't know where it comes from. I don't know where the logic that he doesn't have mental disorder comes from at all, because it makes no sense. And it's like, for all the other characters, I'm fine with. There's no other characters I feel like I really need to talk too much in depth about that I can think of right now. Because everyone has kind of been, like, changing over the years, but I can't think of too many characters that, like, I'm like, what the f about? Other than the ones I've already talked about. I guess my only one would be Scarecrow, but my only example with Scarecrow was the Arkham series, and I'd never seen them really mess up character in any other series that bad. It's mostly just been Batman and Joker that are the biggest ones, I would say. Everyone else is kind of like, whatever. So, I guess that's the end. This is the end of me talking about DC for now. We'll see how the new Lego game looks and the new Clayface movie. I might have more stuff to talk about. But other than that, I think that's it for today. So I hope you enjoyed this very short series. I hope you enjoyed both videos. Let me know how you feel about these characters, if you feel like I'm right or wrong, or if I didn't talk about specific examples. Again, I'm not someone that has read a lot of comics. I usually just read comics for Mad Hatter because I love him. So I usually only read Mad Hatter comics. I haven't read a lot of the super old ones. I've taken glances at them, but I've never got super in depth into reading them. So if there's any other examples I should talk about or anything that I was wrong about, please let me know. And that's all. So thank you for watching. Thank you for staying to the end. Please leave a like, a comment, maybe subscribe for more DC content. Or karaoke content, because I also post that every now and again. God, I look like I made the Riddler face. Jeez. Call me Paul. Is his name Paul? Oh my god, I'm forgetting the actor for Riddler. I know his last name. I don't want to pronounce him being wrong and have everyone bully me in the comments, so I'm not gonna say it.
Okay, editor again. I was right. It is Paul. I knew it. So far, it took me 4 hours in total to edit both videos, as well as this video being 30 minutes, the other video being 40 minutes, which is another hour and 10 minutes. So in total, I spent about freaking 5 hours and 10 minutes on both videos. Again, this is me begging once again, please give me an A. I'm so tired. It's literally 12 at night. When you see me tomorrow at school, Miss Teacher, again, that I won't name for privacy reasons because I respect you, I'm gonna need to drink coffee for the first time in my life because it's gonna be so bad. So when you see me, I'm probably gonna be like half falling asleep. I was very passionate about this, that's why I worked so long on it, but now I kind of wish I didn't because I underestimated how long editing takes. Even though I've watched many YouTubers that have said that editing takes a long time, I guess I never really understood just how long, like, editing less than an hour of footage would be. Like, the first video was less than an hour. It was like 20 minutes off of being an hour, and it still took me 2 hours to do that one, and this one only took me, like, actually no, this one also took me another 2 hours. What am I saying? I think the last one might have took 3 hours, and this one took 1 hour. I don't know. I'm losing track of time. I'm really tired. I'm gonna go to bed now. Oh my goodness, this was awful. This was awful. I will never do this to myself again. Ever again. Especially because I'm not making money off this video. Because I guess I could monetize it, but I don't know if I could monetize these. I could probably monetize the first one. But this was a nightmare, honestly. So thank you. Thank you for, actually, why am I saying thank you? I'm gonna thank myself for managing to suffer through all of this. I'll see you tomorrow.